When we were in the car park, we didn't really have any permission to film, so we were like, I think we started filming at about 11:30 at night, and we ended at about 1:30. So yeah, this is the behind the scenes of Trigger and like the things that we go through as absolutely no budget filmmakers on our first actual short. We had to be really mindful about using replica firearms in a public place, but we decided that it would be okay because it was, it was late at night. This was about 1 o'clock when we were filming this, and we were hoping that nobody would see it. So yeah, we were just really careful about it.
I died on the control, sorry guys.
Give it a smile.
Hello.
It's behind the fucking strap.
You got hook
That's probably a bit too choppy moving over to the side now.
Yeah, it's too choppy. What we want to do, what I noticed in the last one is it's like really boom, 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 and then it comes to the shot and it's like shoo. So when, like maybe when he's throwing him in a car, give a little bit of fake kind of, do you know what I mean? Like a little bit of jitters. And then try keeping him in the right quarter of the screen, the right third of the screen.
Yeah.
Very right.
Yeah, action.
Days, just killed 2 people.
2 people, I killed 3. Oh, because I got a call from you, out of the blue, asking for my help. This was a nice suit.
I don't know what's called.
Fucked up? Yeah, you fucked up. You fucked up a funeral suit. Dangerous. I kind of gathered that. More of that. Now you need to tell me exactly what's going on.
Bang! So when he dies, it's from that. It's from the video. I've seen the video.
Yeah.
Fuck! Fuck! Yeah. So your reaction needs to be way longer now. So he's going to kind of fall on your lap. You're going to turn, and you're going to be like, do you know what I mean? Like reacting, like.
Try and push me off.
And then in that time, the killer's up in the window. You're like, do you know what I mean? Okay. So your reaction's way longer. Okay. What are you doing? He's moving it. So you can move the seat back. Come on, then.
You need to tell me exactly what's going on.
You killed 2 people.
2 people. I killed 3. Oh, because I got a call from you, out of the blue, asking for my help.
I didn't know
Oh, this is a nice suit.
Sorry. I didn't know where else to call. I fucked up.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I didn't know where else to call. I fucked up.
I didn't know anyone else to call. I fucked up.
Let's go from the top then.
Right,
You need to tell me
Get
exactly
into,
what's going
actually
on.
into character now, yeah. So like a little bit more volume,
Okay.
a little bit more. You're a little bit out of breath.
We put that with you episode.
No, you set that camera.
You need to tell me exactly what's going on.
You just killed 2 people.
2 people. I killed 3. Oh, because I got a call from you, out of the blue, asking for my help.
I didn't know where else to
This
call.
was a
I
nice
fucked up.
suit. Fucked up? Yeah, you fucked up. Oh.
The first one is I don't know.
Oh, then this I didn't.
And
Okay.
then he says this was
It's a
a
nice
fucking
suit,
suit.
yeah.
Like I had no one else to call. I
I
fucked up.
So
Yeah.
I can't. Let's get animated.
Animation, yeah. Maybe go for a jog or something. Jog. I've just put these on. I can't even fuck on. It's not even on. It's just, all it's doing is
Jog
dead.
on the spot
All
or
it's doing is
something.
dead in the sound. Like, right,
Jog on.
let's go on, boys. This is it. This is real life now. The funny thing about this dialogue scene is it only exists on the script just for us to test doing a dialogue scene. As most of you know, most of this is literally just to test our skills. There isn't really a story to it. All it is like, can we film it? Can we get it to look good? Can we get it to sound good? And can we deliver on some action scenes? Can we deliver on some dialogue scenes? And that's pretty much the only reason that this film exists. So it doesn't necessarily have that much of a story, to be honest.
Camera.
Yeah, so try, like, as if you're scoping out, you still... On the initial day of principal photography, we didn't end up getting enough good shots of this fight scene. so we had to go back and do a second run just to see if we could get the more violent hits and more strikes. But on the night we went through it and we didn't block it enough, so we learned a good lesson. Try it, run through it. But it has to be violent. It has to look violent.
I watch my brain.
Maybe you don't have to run in because it'll make too much noise if you do it all over and over again.
So, I'm actually towards in the
Josh.
He's actually got
Back a bit so I get that.
Yeah, you just kind of like, you're coming through the door, he's running away from that, and you don't give a fuck. He's like, oh,
You need to come closer.
yeah.
So come. Yeah. Ready?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That's, well, pulling him away from there is actually alright because it gives you a little bit more.
The way you put him down as well looks like safe but forceful as well.
Yeah.
That was a good pull on us.
Nice,
Unless
good
he's
pull down.
unconscious now, is he alright?
You didn't even trick me! Fucking master sweaty man, don't he?
I guess so I can straight away.
Oh.
I'll leave it moist. Nice. Yes, I like that. So when, like, don't cut so early though, like fucking mount him, start fucking smashing him.
Okay.
So I don't cut until I say cut, right? Because I want a lot to play with on that.
Good, John, yeah.
Yeah.
When we're doing it through the door, I want a little bit of motion from you, so start there and just walk. Just so there's motion coming into it.
Yeah.
Go. Nice.
Did you want me, you know when you put him to the floor and then starts punching him, and when you come in and you come like out a bit, because I'm going in like this, and when you go to the floor,
Yeah.
come out.
Just use it. So a little bit more violence in the punch. I know it's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
I like I like how shit that was. Do you know what I mean?
Through the neck.
Right. Another funny thing about this fight scene is if you look outside when Eli comes through the door, we're actually one floor above where the rest of it was filmed. And that's because there was no light in on that middle floor. So at night there's absolutely no light in there, so you'd either have to practically light it. There's also a CCTV camera up there. So yeah, so we had to go one floor up and then magically cut it between one floor and the next. If you actually look very close to the keen-eyed observer, you'll actually notice that the doors open in opposite directions, but I think in the final edit it cuts fine.
Is that cut?
Try to choke him, and then yeah.
So you rig the bed then, so
That's
yeah.
fine, so.
You're gonna get all sweat all over your fucking hands,
Oh.
mate.
Sweaty fuck.
Get you sweaty kid and
you're
jump.
gonna die anyway.
Huh?
You're gonna die anyway, so
Die?
He's also still alive.
no, I'm gonna die.
Oh, you're gonna die, yeah.
You right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna sleep.
I thought you weren't tired.
No, I'm not. It's comfy on me. Banana.
No, stay in your position, right?
Oh.
We've got to do that exact shot again, but with me behind you.
Mount the villain.
Where's my gun?
Right side?
Stay in exactly the same position as you were just in. And then I gotta frame myself up.
Are we just doing the mask reveal?
We're going violence again. No, maybe go one punch. Where do you want me, son?
Just go this way a bit more. A little bit more.
Remember that Eli's going to go
Yeah,
lower.
that's fine. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, if you like go a little bit lower, so how you're going to be when you're punching him.
You gonna do this somewhere?
Yeah, if you like practice punching him.
Do you need me to stand over like that? Like step over?
Yeah, because you can get the frame that way.
So I'm out the frame?
Get out the frame, step in, you're in the frame.
Yeah? So welcome to the VFX portion of the Trigger Behind the Scenes. I am Dan, the director, the editor, the VFX artist as well. So yeah, basically there's two main shots in Trigger that are visual effects oriented, and this is the first one. So this is a simple green screen. Well, it was meant to be simple but it's not. As with shooting anything for the first time, second time, third time, you make mistakes, and we did definitely make mistakes on this one. We shot with a shutter speed way too slow, which gave some really bad motion blur that I literally just couldn't fix in post. So there is a lot of movement that looks a little bit shite. Also, we made a few, well, not so much mistakes. We knew we were making them at the time. It's just we couldn't do anything about it. It's just light in it. The green screen is a little bit creased, and it's a little bit unevenly lit. That's just because we didn't have enough lights, and that's just something that we would learn before doing green screen again. So this scene, we needed one of the guys inside the car to also be outside of the car, not to ruin the fantastically thought out and amazing script of Trigger. Yeah, so one of the guys needs to be out the back of the car, outside the car, as well as inside. So what we did, shot it on a green screen, pulled a key. I spent 25-30 minutes just kind of tweaking the key to get it as good as I can. From then, I brought in the plate from behind, which was shot without the car. So it was literally just Tom stood with a gun that didn't fire. So my job then is to make the gun shoot a bullet that doesn't exist through a window that isn't there and hit Tom and kill him, but he's not going to die. So that was my job as the visual effects artist for this shot. So I pulled in some elements. The actual muzzle flash element that I used, I'm pretty sure is for a shotgun, but it kind of shaped his face the way that I wanted it to, so that's why I ended up using it. It's not realistic at all. So all I did was just a little bit of color correction. I pulled some of the color out of it just to kind of desaturate the muzzle flash a little bit, and then I kind of just use my eye to blur it out to match the rest of the scene. So as I said, I also have to smash a window that doesn't exist, so that's more stock footage. So I place that between the layers of the bottom backplate and the top green screen plate. I also blur that out. Later on I'll make it a little bit smaller. And I add blood elements, so the bullet hits Tom like just kind of, I don't really know where it hits him, but it's just kind of just out of view of the camera behind his head. So we put a little bit of blood, and that's pretty much what we did. So this is the shot as it stands now. It's going to be tweaked a little bit, but if you watch it in slow motion, it doesn't look that great. But in full speed, it's not that bad. So as you can see, these frames here, the low shutter speed absolutely ruined it. And there is also a little bit of the green screen key on the windscreen that I'm not a fan of. But, you know, we have to make do with what we did. And then I did a fake rack focus then to kind of hide Eli's fringing. But yeah, that's the first scene of the visual effects. It turned out okay, considering we hadn't... Yeah, so like as you watch it in full speed, it isn't that bad anymore. But obviously I fixed that glass disappearing as well. But yeah, that's the first scene of VFX on Trigger. So the sound design was pretty hands-on. It was pretty intense, I think. If you look at the actual, just like a less than 2 minute short film, and we got all these extra audio parts. What I probably learned from this is to keep it a little bit more organized. Have dialogue only on one line. Luckily on this one, there's only one line of dialogue, and that's fine. And what I would probably do is get rid of the unused audio clips, so the stuff that came with the video. But yeah, this is what it looks like now. It's not quite finished yet, but I'm just going to go through what we kind of did, or what I did, to kind of build up the soundscape and make it a little bit more cinematic. It's not perfect by any means, but like we're learning, so this is perfect for us. So like these are all the Foley things. Some of it's from the Foley that I've had from before. Some of it was recorded in my house. Some of it was recorded on set. So this one, there's a scene here. And there's no noise when he comes out of there, and I just feel like it needed a little bit more noise. So I've taken the gun that he had in his hand there. Let me turn the volume down just a touch. I've recorded the gun that he has in his hand, but I recorded it in my house, so I've got this one here, and it's literally just me handling it to the time. A little bit of a gap in the middle at the start. But as you can see there, that's just me handling the gun. So if I'm just going to add that in, let's cut a lot of it away. And then line it up, and I think it's about there. So we're going to go. And see, it already just adds just a touch more life. Needs maybe some sort of reverb, but we'll have a look at that in a little bit. But then there was another thing where I wanted him to say something here, but we didn't record it on actually on the camera at that time, or on the recorder. So I actually got Tom to do an insert to say "fucking move," and it just adds to a little bit. None of these footsteps are real. We tried to record them on set, but there was an issue because we were using the Tascam, which has got the built-in microphones, because basically I stupidly left my shotgun mic out of the situation. So that, basically we tried to record it on set, but the footsteps, there was too much wind going into the microphone, so we couldn't use it. So these are Foley footsteps. They're not perfect, but they're okay. And kind of in this zoomed in shot, I doubled up the footsteps so that like it kind of punches more when you zoom in, and then it kind of eases off when you zoom out again. Then for the whole of this short as well, I've got this this ambient sound. And what that does is it just kind of helps blend all these other ones together. So that's a really good thing. If you've got dialogue without that ambient sound and there's cuts in it, you're going to hear all the cuts. So that's a little smart thing to do. I used on-camera audio for this door opening and shut in. So all these were actual caught out of the camera, but because it's the camera's mic isn't the best, but because it's catching it, because there's music overlap and you can't really hear how bad it actually is. And then to the dialogue scene, this is recorded with the Tascam on the front of the bonnet, not on the bonnet, on the dashboard. So it's literally a stereo mic, and it's aimed at both of them. But I just kind of crushed the stereo down into a mono, so they're both on the same channel. But that's basically what we got here. The next big kind of ruffle of sounds is the gunshot. So obviously, like, this hasn't been graded. You have to ignore the switching color because we haven't actually color graded it yet. But so that's going from just the interior shots from the M50 onto the GH5 green screen shot. So this is the green screen from the VFX shot, and let's see if we can. I'll tell you what, I'll just do it as we go. So as it comes in, the music climbs.
What's going on?
That scream we're not happy with, but there isn't really much we can do about it. So Eli reaction screams, I basically had him just do, see if I've got it here actually. There. So basically, let me click on this. I just got him to do a couple of screams.
Right, just give me some like guttural.
Ah!
Try it again. Ah! You fucking peaked. Right, yeah, no, maybe not so loud.
Ah!
So those, so those are the things that we had. That's what I had to work with. So there wasn't a lot, but when it came to this, like if I just solo this, we got a glass. We've got a gunshot, I think. That's one gunshot, but I doubled up a gunshot just to make it sound a little bit punchier. And then I've got a third gunshot, actually. Then I have this little guttural sound that Eli makes. Well, it isn't Eli, it's me, but I added it. It's for Tom, sorry. So when he gets hit, he just kind of... There we go. So like... So we got there, and then obviously we got Eli's scream, which comes in there. On that one, you actually hear me laugh if I didn't. but I've flattened that out so it doesn't actually sound like I laughed. So yeah, this is kind of the way that I did the sound, and I found that this was probably the most fun that I had doing the editing stuff. Next is on to colour, and then we're going to finish. So obviously right now, none of these scenes match in colour, especially these two. These are meant to be right next to each other. But one's really blue, this one's really warm. But that's part of the job of the fun job of being a colourist next now for me. So I'm trying to think if there's any other cool bits that we did. This is mostly in camera. The fight scenes is mostly in camera. I did start using a little bit of music to kind of punctuate something that's happening on screen. So when this door opens and he notices that there's a killer there, I used like a really heavy boom, thunderous kind of. So there's a riser for when the door's opening, and then there's a boom for when he sees it. Just like that boom. Another funny thing is, I tried to... Let me solo this one. That is actually a sound of me actually punching myself, these sounds. But because of the mic I'm using, it didn't sound that good. So what I did, because I've left all my good mics in work, so what I did instead was I used those sounds and also kicks from a music pack, basically like a drum kick. It just gives it a little bit more bass. It still doesn't sound as good as I'd want it to, but you know, that's it. And that's pretty much it for the sound design. I mean, this was really fun for me, and like if anybody is getting into the kind of, you know, small team, it's basically just me and Josh doing the post stuff. Or for this, it's pretty much all me. But for the next couple of, you know, when we start doing projects a lot, Josh is going to get more involved. But yeah, this is kind of the really fun part I found. Actually, is just I really enjoyed it, and I think that's what adds to the kind of the learning journey that we're on. So yeah, so that's it for the behind the scenes of the sound design portion of Trigger. Welcome to the colour portion of the very in-depth behind-the-scenes footage of what it takes of the effort that we put into a 2-minute film that has absolutely no story. So these two shots here are shot on different cameras. The one on the bottom is shot on a Canon M50, and the one on the top is a GH5. So this doesn't really mix well. So like the Canon M50, the 4K is actually like really, really good, unless you're putting it next to something that's better. So I mean, for the price, the Canon M50's 4K is pretty nifty. But when it came to matching it, there was difficulties, especially considering I'm not really a colorist. I really struggled with this one. And another thing that I kind of took away from this whole experience, and when it came to the coloring of it, is the fact that you have to take camera notes. Now, because we had to come back and reshoot some of the shots, I noticed that we just didn't take any camera notes, and the 2 separate days of filming had very, very different, I would assume, aperture and ISO. I would assume mostly ISO and aperture, but the colours don't match. I mean, like the first night, for some reason, everything had like a greenish hue, and the second night that we filmed, like this scene here, has way warmer tones. So like looking at the skin tones, that were way warmer. And that was a big problem for me, because I'm not as experienced as doing color as I am with some other stuff. So like, if you can, and you can see here that I'm trying to match 2 different cameras yet again. So the GH5 is this one, and I'm just trying to match to a substantially more less saturated image, but like the kind of the highlights are a little bit better on the M50 in this shot particular. So all I'm trying to do now is trying to match the cool tones of like the shadows in the GH5, but also trying to get the skin tones right as well. So I'm just kind of playing with the transitions and trying to match them perfectly. But this is this is the main thing that I would take away from making this project, and something that I will never ever do again, is if you're shooting over multiple days in same locations, and it'll be good practice to do it anyway, is just to take camera notes. So like, for anyone who's watching this because they want to make a short film, learn from our mistakes, and this was literally one of the biggest mistakes. It was just the fact that we just we shot and we looked at the screen and we thought that looks all right, and then but they look nothing like each other. So that's kind of, I can't really talk anymore about the colouring really. I can just kind of cut these through so you can just see the final run through of me trying to colour it. Okay, so that is basically the end of the making of, behind the scenes, really in depth, because I feel like if anybody's going to watch this, it's going to be people who are really interested in making their first short film, and like hopefully we can teach people not to make all the mistakes that we did. So that's kind of what this was about, and it's kind of like I think it'll be nice to be really interesting to look back on and just kind of see where we went wrong, see what things we did right, and you know, this is going to be something that we look back on and we can pick loads of flaws with. But at the same time, you know, it was our first ever project. We never had any outside help, so all it was is stuff that me and Josh had read online or like previous experience. But this is literally the first project of its type that came from us, and we're going to go from this one straight into the next one. So like, for anyone who's watched this long, really appreciate the time that you've spent, and I hope you kind of enjoyed Trigger, even though it wasn't made to be designed. It was to be enjoyed. It was kind of a technical test. But thanks very much for your time, and we'll catch you next time on the next making of our next short film, which hopefully will be a little bit better and a little bit more ambitious. Peace.